Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? My name is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and welcome back. So I've brought this up on my last few videos, and as crazy as it is to think about, 2018 is like right around the corner, which just continues to blow my mind. And as I said in my last video, also makes me feel really old. Like, New Year's is great, it's exciting, but also makes you feel older at the same time. It's just one of those catch-22 situations. And with the new year right around the corner, like a week away from today, actually, it kind of has everyone looking back at the past year, of course, in gaming, 2017, and one of the big conversations we're starting to see is around system sales. Now, in no big surprise, what I wanted to do was talk a little bit more about the Nintendo Switch sales specifically, which I did a couple of weeks ago, comparing the possible sales to the Nintendo Wii, with the fact that we just had confirmation that the Switch has actually sold more than 10 million units in its first 9 months on the market, which is incredible and so impressive, and just as I've said many times, wonderful to see a successful Nintendo again coming off of the unfortunate failure of the Wii U as far as sales go. And in this video, I'm doing a little bit of a piggybacking thing, which I do like to do every once in a while. I have no problem admitting when a topic is kind of sparked by another fellow YouTuber or someone else in the community. I think it's important to be able to point that stuff out. And this whole concept of this video kind of comes off of Spawnwave, my buddy John, of course, who just made a video earlier this morning from the recording of this video, discussing the fact that apparently the Nintendo Switch is barreling in on passing the PlayStation 2's first 10-month sales, specifically in Japan. Now, I'm really glad that Spawnwave decided to point this out and make a quick video about this topic, because it probably would have taken another couple of days for me to actually key into this news. I don't typically follow sales so closely as much as like game announcements and business decisions and bigger reveals and stuff from the companies. So once I saw what was going on there, and I'll have his video linked below too, by the way, which you should check out. Once I saw what was going on there, I realized, okay, we certainly are seeing more confirmation of great sales success from the Switch. And it's interesting because the PS2 very famously is the best-selling piece of video game hardware of all time. Whether it's a home console or a handheld, no matter what generation we're comparing it to, other Sony consoles even, the PS2 was an absolute behemoth of a sales machine, which is great. I mean, back in the day, it took me a couple of years to probably get on board the PS2 and the Sony train. I was a little bit of like, I guess I'll say, a Nintendo fanboy in the wrong way, and like an anti-Sony guy, just because I think at the time the PS2 was selling so much better than the GameCube. And that was, you know, the younger version of myself, someone who I no longer consider myself to be, who would be like, well, the thing I like isn't doing as well, so I'm mad at the thing that's doing better, which means it must be bad because it's not the thing I love, which is the GameCube and Nintendo. And a lot of people, unfortunately, still share sentiments like that. A lot of them are Nintendo fans, and some of them are fans of other consoles. I think it's an unfortunate and a very immature and kind of young person perspective on how to enjoy your video games and your consoles, but I admit that at the time I was that way, so for a while I refused to let myself see any benefit or good sides to the PS2. But after a while I realized, okay, what am I doing here? Yes, the GameCube is my favorite, but the PS2 is a great machine with an amazing library. The Xbox is also a good machine with a couple of great games as well, and that's when I opened myself into being like an equal opportunity gamer and somebody that enjoys all the consoles, all the players, all the machines and games, and all of these things. Anyway, let's get away from that tangent side story and get back into the main topic we're talking about, which is the fact that the Nintendo Switch continues to impress us with its sales. Hitting 10 million in 9 months, that's incredible. Creeping up on the Wii U's lifetime sales in less than the first year on the market, that's incredible. And now, in Japan, which is a very, very different market, of course, in Japan, now about to eclipse or meet the PlayStation 2's sales in that first 10 months. And when you look at how well the PlayStation 2 sold worldwide, whatever, 140, 150 million units lifetime, it's a big deal. And as I've discussed recently and said so many times on videos on this channel, I think the Switch is going to be a big hit, obviously a bigger hit than the Wii U. I don't think it needs to eclipse the sales of the Wii or the DS or even the PS2 to be considered a big hit, but it's also starting to look more and more likely that maybe that could happen. However, the caveat is, I also personally don't think that the Switch will be the relevant Nintendo console long enough to be able to sell over 110, 150 million units. So there's a lot of different elements going into the whole thing, but my main concept to this video, based on this news about the Japan sales and the PlayStation 2 comparison, is I think it's important for us to take a real long, solid look at really how much the Switch needs to sell to be considered a hit. Because within the community and the conversation amongst gamers and Nintendo fans is all about, we love the Switch now and the Switch is doing great and people are loving it, so Nintendo is being seen really positive, so it's going to be the best and it's going to sell the best and it has to sell the best in order to justify my very positive opinion on Nintendo and the Switch. And again, that's kind of one of those mentalities that I can't really get behind because it reminds me of the younger, dumber version of myself. So I definitely implore people to not look at things at such an absolute sort of finite perspective because I don't think it's healthy. And I think that it's good to kind of rein in some of those feelings on what we expect the Switch to do and what maybe we tell ourselves we need the Switch to do. I've been talking about the Switch sales a little bit more realistically over the past couple of videos, like I've said, and in doing so, I realized, sure, the Switch is selling amazingly. It's pacing with the Wii U. It's now pacing with the Wii, excuse me, and it's pacing with the PlayStation 2 now. These are great things, but is it going to sell more than those consoles? I just don't really think so. I mean, I think it's a 50-50 shot as far as meeting the Wii's sales. I think it's way less of a chance it's going to eclipse the PlayStation 2 sales for a variety of reasons. So I don't think it's going to sell that much. And I know that some people get bothered and offended, and I've had some responses to my videos in the past where I've stated, hey, the Switch is doing great, it's going to sell great, but it's not going to beat the Wii or the PlayStation 2. People get, like I was just joking a minute ago, they get really upset and they want to defend this, and how could anyone possibly think that the Switch is not going to sell more than the original Wii? And you know, it brings me back to the point I've made so many times. It's not impossible that the Switch outsells the Wii or even the PlayStation 2. I mean, nothing is impossible. You should never talk in terms of things being impossible because that's how you end up getting egg on your face and looking like a fool after the fact. But I do still think that a betting man or woman would be smart to put their money on the Switch not outselling those. But going back to the other question I posed here, how much does the Switch need to sell to be seen as a success? It doesn't need to sell 100 million units to be seen as a success. It doesn't need to outpace the best-selling console of all time to be seen as a success. And I think that that's a wonderful position for Nintendo and the Switch to be in, you guys. I mean, to tell you the truth, we've already seen it be the success it probably needs to be. Selling 10 million units in 9 months is a success. Keeping pace with the PlayStation 2, the best-selling console of all time in Japan, is a success. And is there any reason to think that that's going to slow? I don't really think so. Maybe 2018 really becomes way more barren from first and third-party games than we are all expecting to see, and yes, maybe that's going to slow the Switch sales down significantly. However, none of us really think that's going to be the case. I mean, we even just had Bayonetta 3 confirmed recently. Square is going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. Rumors about Grand Theft Auto 5. We know we're getting a Fire Emblem. Maybe Metroid or Pokemon comes out next year, not to mention other surprises we haven't gotten yet. I mean, come on. The Switch is going to continue to sell. So how much becomes that key number for it to be seen as a success? At this point, I can only put my personal opinion and use my own perspective and experience as a gamer for 30 years and a Nintendo fan for 30 years here. But I would wager that the bare minimum for decent success is 30 million units. The bare minimum for really positive and successful success, kind of redundant, but you know what I mean. The bare minimum for like good success, I think is 40 to 50 million units. As far as what will be seen as a very huge, absolutely successful, amazing machine is probably that 60 or 70 million. And then you get into the 80 and the 100 millions, and that's when you get into smash lightning in a bottle success. I think that that level is probably, like I've already said, less than achievable. But if we looked at what I think it's probably going to come down at around 50 to 70 million. That's my ultimate prediction here, guys. Let me just throw that out there in the middle of this video. My actual prediction for lifetime sales of the Switch is between 50 and 70 million units. That is, make no mistake, guys, a bona fide hit, a smash success. Not to mention coming off of the Wii U. God, I love the Wii U, but coming off of the failure of sales that was that machine, which only sold 14 million units, 50 million or more is incredible. That is the most amazing trending upward situation any company could possibly ever hope to see. I don't think any other company could even ever do that if in fact the Switch sells as many units as I'm predicting here. So in a world where we see the Switch move as many as 50 to 70 million units, even if it's 40, like I said, 30 or 40 is still a big success. I think what we've seen shows us that 30 and 40 million is probably, that's old news. I mean, there's no reason to think that it's going to stall at some point so much to only sell 30 million units. I think it will absolutely surpass that, but Still, even let's say it sold as low as 30 million units, that's a huge success. That is more than double the Wii U. So regardless, long story short, and wrapping this up, I think perspective is key here, and I think it's something that is important for Nintendo fans and people just paying attention to the industry and the hard numbers of all these things to keep in the back of their minds that it's all about perspective and it's all about trending in the positive direction, such as coming off of a system with low sales into a system with high sales. Is it going to beat the Wii and the DS and the PS2? Probably not, you guys, but that is totally okay. If we see 50, 60, 70, 80 million Switches sold by the time this thing finally is done and we move on to whatever Nintendo's next hardware is going to be, that's going to be incredible. So yeah, I think that's it. Just some ideas that I kind of had to just get out of my brain, especially once I saw John's video about keeping pace with the PS2 sales in Japan. The PS2 is a juggernaut like we've almost never seen before. The Wii came very, very, very close. And so I feel like it became interesting to think about, well, what does the Switch really need to accomplish and how are people going to perceive it? You're going to get those diehard fanboys that have a very tiny little pinpointed box of vision and they can only see this little tiny box. And so if it doesn't sell more than the Wii or the PS2, it's just garbage and they refuse to believe that it's not going to do that. But then you get the people with the smarter, mature adult perspective who can see a variety of outcomes for the Switch that could all be incredibly positive. And I think Nintendo is going to be happy anyway, in either way, with either outcome. And I think that the industry is going to see the Switch as a really fantastic machine, very successful with either outcome as well. So that's what I think, and now I want to know what you guys think. What do you see as a solid number for the Switch to sell lifetime to actually be seen as a success? What do you think about comparing it to the Wii or now the PS2, especially with these Japanese sales? What do you think about the whole sales situation altogether? And that is going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.